Okay, so we're going to do celery now, but let's talk about just really briefly about the vegetables that we're cutting today. Today we're cutting onions, carrots, and celery. Now this combination of vegetables, we call this mirepoix, okay? In European style cooking, this combination of vegetables is used a lot. In fact, the chef will say, I need you to cut me some mirepoix. And you're just expected to know that it's going to be onions and carrots and celery, okay? So basically, if you need proportions, we're talking about 2 parts onion to 1 part celery and 1 part carrot. So if you're supposed to cut a liter of mirepoix, the chef will want that. What that means, he wants 500 milliliters of onion, 250 milliliters of celery, and 250 milliliters of carrot. That's always going to be the proportion. So you know what the vegetables are. The only thing that you're going to ask the chef when he says, Sean, I want you to cut me some mirepoix, you're going to ask him, how big do you want it, chef? And then how much do you want? Okay, so today we're making a soup, but we're making a soup very quickly, so the vegetables that we're cutting are actually cut quite small. Other times, if you've got something that's going to be cooking for a long time, for instance, we have a pot of chicken stock on the stove over here, that's going to cook for a few hours, okay? And if that's the case, then I don't want my vegetables cut tiny because they'll dissolve and they'll fall apart. So my vegetables, I'm going to cut a lot bigger, okay? So that first of all, they don't fall apart and get all squishy, and second of all, if I cook my vegetables for too long, they'll start to get bitter. Again, that's not something I want. So, mirepoix, onions, carrots, celery, 2 parts onion, 1 part celery, 1 part carrot. Okay, so let's talk about celery now. So, when we cut our onion, the challenge was that it was very roly-poly and it likes to fall apart. Okay, when we cut our carrot today, it rolls around a little bit, but it's a solid vegetable, so that was a little bit easier. Now, this one is just weird, right? It's kind of a U shape, you know, it's got the stuff on the top, and we have to go, but it's actually quite easy to do, okay? So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take off these little bits of greenery. We can set these aside. Sometimes chefs will use this to flavor dishes. This is delicious, okay, these greens, okay? They're a little bit tough. Another thing you'll see is that the chefs might use something like this to garnish they'll hand it off to the bar at a hotel, and they will use it to garnish drinks, like a Caesar or a Bloody Mary or something like that. Okay, so I'll set those off to the side. And then, like the carrot, we're going to look at either end, okay? And make sure that that we don't have some brown stuff on here that we don't want to use. So I'm going to cut that away and cut that away. Now, the problem that we have with celery, now I've washed this for you, okay? So celery grows in these big bunches, okay? And it grows up like this. And the problem is when we have to be very careful down at this end of the celery, the base, to look for dirt, okay? Because the celery grows up like this. When it rains, dirt gets splashed inside this bunch of celery, and it has no way of getting out again. So there's always going to be dirt trapped in your celery. So what you're going to do is you're going to have a bunch of celery, you're going to cut off the base, you're going to start pulling off these stalks of celery, and then you're going to give them a good wash, okay? Now, when we're cutting celery, we have this weird little U shape, okay? So it's shaped like this. It's not round, it's not square. But once again, we sort of have to take this and use our imaginations a little and figure out how to take this and get it into that small dice shape that we're trying to get, like when we did our onions, when we did our potatoes, when we did our carrots, okay? So, very much the same steps though, okay? I'm going to start off cutting off that batonette length that we talked about before. So here I am. Now, it's a small vegetable, it's great, so it's easy to hold, okay? It's not gonna move around on you too much, especially if you put it like this on the cutting board so that the U shape is upside down. Because now, it's actually pretty steady, you end up with something that's like a flat surface, okay? So as usual, I'm cutting my celery, I'm gonna hold it steady with one hand. I'm going to got my knife like this, 3 fingers around the handle, thumb and forefinger holding the blade in place, and so I'm going to cut those nice lengths that I want, okay? So once again, if I cut these in shorter lengths, this is going to allow me to control the cutting of my celery a lot more easily, so that I can get really picky about the shapes that I'm cutting, okay? So here I've got these equal lengths of celery now, okay? So what I want to do now is, my next step when I cut the carrot is I cut sheets of carrot that were nice and flat, so that when I cut the next step, it was easy. I can get that with this, okay? So what I'm gonna do here is I've got my U shape, and what I wanna do is I wanna cut it in half, like this. So I'll put the U shape upside down on my board like this, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut that in half. Because when I do that, what I end up with is something that will sit flat on my cutting board, okay? And now that that's sitting flat on my cutting board, if I look over at my batonette shape that's on my sheet, I can see that, oh, okay, now I can see how to get from here to there. Okay, so here I am. And now I'm just cutting sticks like I did before. Okay? Here's my sticks. Okay? And then I have those nice sticks that I was cutting before. Okay, once again, all these different ones, same thing. I'm going to cut these in half. Okay? Now, the challenge that we have with the celery is that as we work our way down the celery stalk, it changes in size. Okay? So what that means is that towards the base where it's really wide, I'll get a number of batonets out of it. But up towards where the leaves are, I might only get one or two. And that's okay, that's fine. But we have to be aware that we have to sort of be able to make that judgment, right? So here I am, I'm going to maybe cut this one in half, okay, like this. This one too is actually about the right size, so I'm going to leave these ones, I think. This one here is a bit weird though, because I've got really, I've got like a wide bit, and it's attached to a skinny bit. So what I probably want to do there is sort of just even off, cut off that little knobby bit at the end, so I have something that's about the right shape and size. Okay. Okay. So once again, there we have our batonet cut. Okay. Nice sticks, all even size. And once that's done, we just go back to what we did before. We gather them up, we push them against the blade to make them nice and even, and then we've got our beautiful, even diced celery. Okay?